Hi, my name is Michael Pliskin. Welcome to the Lightroom Chronicles. Today we're going to talk about how to import raw images from our digital memory card onto our computer's hard drive using Lightroom's import module. I've already installed the card into my card reader, and now I'm going to select my source, which is the card. You see here it says Nikon D800. This card came out of the Nikon D800. Lightroom has already launched the import module. If it doesn't, all you have to do is go down here and click on import, and it will bring up the import module. So we've got our import, our digital memory card right here, D800. I've got eject after import selected so that the computer will automatically eject the card as soon as I'm done. And then that's my source. Now I'm going to go over here and tell Lightroom what to do with these images. I can copy them as a DNG, which is the Adobe Digital Negative RAW format, or I can copy them in the camera's own proprietary RAW format. Or if they were already on one of my drives, I can either move them from one drive to another as I'm importing them to Lightroom, or if they've already been installed, I can just add them to Lightroom from their current location. But because I'm copying them from the card, I'm going to use copy or copy as DNG. And then I'm going to go over here and make sure that the hard drive I want to use is selected from this list. Normally, Lightroom puts this into my pictures folder on your root hard drive, your boot drive. But I prefer to put them on an external drive so that I don't take up a lot of room in my internal drive. So I'm going to use my Max RAID 4 drive, which happens to be a RAID 1 drive, which contains two hard drives in the same box, and anything I save to that drive goes onto both drives at the same time so that I already have an automatic backup. This way I don't have to make another backup copy. Okay, so that's where the images are going to go. We'll create a folder to put them in a little later. First, I've chosen my drive. Now I'm going to build standard previews. Now, if I wanted to, if I was using a laptop, I could build smart previews. What smart previews allow you to do is work on the images when your hard drive that's storing them is offline. So for instance, if you're traveling and you've put your images on an external drive and then you get on an airplane to fly somewhere and you've got a long flight, you can pull out your laptop and work on the images and edit them on the smart previews without having to connect your hard drive with the original files attached. Then when you get home, you can plug in the hard drive and synchronize everything. But since I'm using a desktop machine here, I'm not going to build smart previews, but I am going to make sure that don't import suspected duplicates is checked so that if I put this card in again, I don't accidentally import the same images twice. Now, if I wasn't using a RAID 1 drive, I could check here and have Lightroom make a second copy and then navigate here to another hard drive and Lightroom will then make a second copy of all my images on a backup folder on a different drive, so that if my first drives fail, I'll already have a backup copy. Now, the next step is file renaming. If you can rename the files in your camera before you take them, like I do with my Nikon, I don't have to rename the files because I can set my 3-letter prefix instead of having an IMG 1234 dot suffix. I can set my first 3 letters as a file name and then have the camera do the 4-number sequence and the suffix. But some cameras don't give you that option, and everything is IMG and then 4 numbers. So after you get to 9999, it starts over with 0001, and now you'll have 2 images with the same number. So instead, what you want to do is rename the files. Under the template settings, you can go here to edit and select what type of image naming you want to do. And so, for instance, you can put a shoot name and then the file number sequence. So in other words, let's say this is beach 1234.nef or .cr2. Okay, so what I would do then is go here to shoot name and type in beach, and then my images will have the beach and the 4 numbers. You could also have it as an original sequence instead of the sequence that the camera generated. I'm going to turn that off now because I'm not doing that here. Now, the other thing you can do is apply things during import to save you time later. I have created a develop setting preset that I will add to my images as I import them to save me time later when I get to developing them. What I've found that I generally add some of the exact same settings in the develop module to every single image that I import. So rather than taking the time to do that when I get to developing the images, I've saved those settings as a preset in the user's preset folder so that I can apply them now. And I'm talking about settings like I'll add about 25 or 30 points of clarity, 25 or 30 points of vibrance, which will give me a little bit of snap to the textures and the midtones of my images, and boost the non-skin tone colors like the blues of the sky and the ocean and greens of foliage and things like that to give me a little bit richer colors, make my images look a little more natural. I will also add about 50 to 60% sharpness masking to my image so that to prevent Lightroom from trying to sharpen things that I don't want sharpened. So by adding about 50 to 60% of masking in the sharpen panel, it won't be sharpening things like noise in the shadows or in the sky or things like that, and it'll only sharpen the edges of the images, the edges of the details of the image. So I'll do that. And then also Lightroom has this wonderful database of lens correction profiles built into it. They've taken a lot of very popular Nikon, Canon, Sony, Sigma, Olympus, and other lenses, tested them at all different focal lengths, all different f-stops, and found where the light fall off is, where the barrel or pincushion distortion is, and they've made correction profile settings for all of them. And since your camera records this metadata of what lens you've used and what focal length you've used on each digital file, Lightroom can see that and apply the appropriate corrections automatically. It's a wonderful, wonderful feature. So I turn that on as well. And then I save all of those settings, not very many of them, but about 4 different settings. And I save them into a user preset, and I will add that now. So I'll go to Develop Settings, and I'll navigate down to my User Presets folder, and I'll choose my D800 Basic. And so that those developed settings will then be added to all the images I import now. I will also add some metadata of my own. One of the great features of this import module is that it allows you to add information to each image as you import it. Things like your copyright, your contact information, something about the shoot, where it was shot, what the subject matter was, who was in it, what the content is, who the client was, or anything along those lines, whether it's a landscape or a portrait or an event. All of that can be put into a metadata template and then added to the image as you import it. What I'm going to do is I've created a whole bunch of metadata templates. I do this every time I import images. But what I primarily do at the beginning of the year, I'll create a new metadata template with just my contact information and my copyright information for that year. And I'll go down here to the bottom of my metadata set. You see how many different presets I already have. I've been doing this for years. Okay, so I'll say Edit Presets. When it comes up, I'll choose the 2015 template that I already made. And here you just see my copyright information, my contact information, and my byline. Okay, that's all I really need here. If I wanted to, I can put in where it was taken, I can put in when it was taken, I could put in what the subject matter was, I could put all kinds of other information in there, and then I could save it as a new preset by going up here and pulling down and saying Save as New Preset, which is way down here at the bottom, and Save Current Settings as a new preset, and then I'll name that preset and then import it. But I'm only going to use the 2015 preset, so to save some time. So we'll click Done. It's going to add that 2015 metadata. Now, I could also add some keywords to the images as I import them. Keywords are words that we can use to help find our images either in the Lightroom's library module, where we can do a text search, or in any search engine, the keywords will help find your images. So I'm just going to use a few basic keywords that are general to describe the images I'm about to import. And helps if I spell them right. I've separated them by commas. Okay, and now the next step will be to go to tell Lightroom where I'm going to be putting the images on this drive. Okay, I'm going to name a subfolder. I'm going to call this Redondo Beach 2-2015. This tells me where I shot the images and when I shot them, so that I don't have to import them by date. It's already on the name. I have the option here, though, of importing by date, in which case it would put all the images taken on a specific date into one folder, and every day will have its own folder. But that doesn't tell me anything except when the image was taken, but not where or who's in it or what it's about, so that when I bring up my library module later on and I look for the images I took in Redondo Beach, if I don't remember the date, I'll never be able to find the images unless, of course, I've keyworded them. If I didn't keyword them, I won't be able to find them. I'll have to look through every single date. And if I shot every day, I'll have 365 date folders for every year. I don't really want to do that. I'd much rather put in a word or phrase or something that will help describe what's in that folder. And I can also put a date there on that name as well. And then I will know specifically what's there. Okay, now, once I've done that, I can scroll down here to the bottom and find that Redondo Beach folder. There it is. And the images will go into that folder. Lightroom's created it for me. Now my last step is to select which images I'm going to import. There are a lot of images on this card taken in a variety of different places. I'm not going to import them all right now. I'm just going to import some of them. So I will click on the first image, and I'm going to uncheck them all. Okay, then I'll click on the first image I want to import. Click on the last image I want to import while holding down my Shift key. So I'm Shift clicking from the first to the last, which selects them all in between. And now I'll click on the checkbox on one of them, and it checks them all. And you notice it's not importing all the others. It's just importing this bunch. Okay, and now I can go ahead over here and click Import, and it will take me back to my library module as Lightroom starts to import the images. Notice here is my hard drive that I'm putting them on. And here is the name of the folder we created that Lightroom has created for us. And as it starts importing the files, you'll see it's starting to populate this folder. And as it imports it, we'll see this number go up as more and more images are imported. And that, my friends, is how we import images from our digital memory card into our computer by using Lightroom's import module. Thanks for stopping by. This is the Lightroom Chronicles. I'm Michael Pliskin. Hope you'll come back for some of our next episodes on the library, the develop module, and many other things we can do with this wonderful Lightroom program.